Hello and welcome to this amazing show, The Integrated Life. And this is Bharti Naik and Sagar Amlani. We welcome each one of you to this amazing talk show. And yes, we are back with another episode of the Integrated Life show. And we really are excited to know from which part of this world you have joined this show. So please put up your city name, your name in the comments, and let us know where you have joined in from today. And it is always wonderful to have people who are joining from different parts of the world. Last time we had people from Malaysia, we had people from Bangalore, we had from Chennai, and also we had from Baroda, Mumbai, Delhi joining into this talk show. So it is always exciting. And yes, when you put up your questions in the live show, we pick up those questions. And if it is related to today's episode, we answer to that episode. So lovely. Welcome, Prem, to this talk show. This is fantastic. Please let us know, Sai, from which part of the world you have joined in from. Put up the city. Oh, lovely. You're from Hyderabad. This is amazing. Yes, Sagar, this is from Ahmedabad. He's from Ahmedabad. Yes, Sagar.
Hyderabad. Okay. So before we get on to the thing, let's recap. What was the last episode about? We don't have to think. It's very simple. Today is episode 5, which is about execute. A letter before E is D. D is for delegation. Right? We've made your life simple. Don't think about it. So now, remember what we discussed in delegation, the acronym that we gave to you: driving a car, delegating it to the driver, sitting at the back seat, working out, and also doing your work in the back seat. And you delegate it with trust, communicate the direction, and keep reviewing in middle if he is driving fast, slow, rash, or taking a wrong route. The same thing now when we talk about car, it's about communicating in the right way, as I said in the example. A, authorizing them to drive wherever they want to, but with the right direction. And review, while you work at the back seat, you keep talking, you keep looking at the road, you go back to the work, you keep glancing, and that's a review. Now that is where you have a productive mindset, because when you do that, you're actually not only strengthening the person who is driving, but also giving them that quality that they can actually function faster. But to delegate, you need to be proactive. You need to identify the right people. You need to communicate in advance. You need to authorize them in advance. You have to prepare your mind in that way where you accept and are ready to proactively delegate it. So, that, my friend, is what we bring on this show, the Integrated Life Show. The activity remains the same. You know about the activity. What we bring to you is how you can be proactive to get that activity done, and how you can be efficient and effective to get that activity towards your focused goal, which is the productive mindset. So, have proactive, have the productive mindset, and have an integrated approach. Results: sense of fulfillment, happiness, and gratitude. So, Bharti, we have Shreya from Delhi, we have Vishal from Barodra, and now, what is today's episode all about?
Well, in a moment, I'll share what today's episode is. I want to share something with you. You know, Sagar, last year, when I took over the business from my daughter, the cake alchemist, and thought of running the bakery business along with my speaking business, I was very clear on one thing. Being an entrepreneur over a decade now, I was clear on what to focus on, which target audience. So, corporate clients, getting the corporate orders was the one focus that I had. So, to get those corporate orders, what I did was I developed a couple of products which has a more shelf life, and I then developed it, produced it, packaged it well, and then I started approaching the corporates, gave them samples to test. And you know what happened? I got fantastic response from a few companies, and got a huge bulk orders of over 500 boxes to be shipped pan India. And I was in my mind thinking that, wow, this was the first month that I took over the business, and I was able to get the order of 500, more than 500 boxes. And coming to think of it, why was I able to do that? It was because of the proactive approach that I used here, because of the approach that I developed, the products that I kept the target audience in mind, that I kept that I want to focus on this part. I started visualizing that this is what my goal I want to be. And when I did that, what I also grabbed was the productive mindset, what you talk about. And that what made this entire thing successful. And that is what today's our entire episode is about, talking about execution, talking about executing what we have as a vision as an entrepreneurs. We always have that execution is the key. We all know that execution is the key. But then we don't do it. There are so many entrepreneurs, professionals, people who are at the onset of becoming an entrepreneur. They have millions of ideas, so many things to do. Even in our personal life, when we look at it, we have so many things to do. But the question remains the same. We all know it is important to execute. Planning is just the planning, but execution is the key. But then why don't we do it? Why is it that we don't implement what we plan? Because of two things that we lack. Number one, do you have the proactive approach towards what you are visioning, what you have as your goal? And do you have the mindset to be productive? And that is what today's episode is going to be about. Let's talk about this show. Sagar, over to you. Let's talk about this show. How did we come up with this show?
You know, you gave me a brilliant perspective. And before we move on to answering your question, let's delve into what you did to get that order. So, A, you can answer yes and no, Bharti, if I'm right or wrong. I'm just bringing that perspective to life for all the audience. So let's say the plan was to execute the order for the corporates,
Yes.
right? So now I'll ask you a series of questions, and then you can decide if you want to answer yes, no, maybe, or whatever. Did you prepare the labels in advance?
Yes.
Did you prepare the packaging? You thought about the packaging and you had the bottles ready in advance?
Yes.
Did you order them in advance?
Yes.
Did you order the exact number of the orders that you would get, or you waited for the orders to come and you were prepared with the lead time in your mind?
I was prepared for lead time. I was prepared for more kind of orders. So there were lot of series of things that I was prepared for.
So you were
Uh,
prepared for the lead. No, no, no. I don't want you to give me the answers. So I'm saying,
okay.
so you were prepared for the lead time, but you did not order the bottles, which means you did not block your funds, right? Lovely. Did you discuss with your vendor about his capability and capacity to ramp up?
Yes, I did that. I
Lovely.
also
Only yes and no, Bhati. Only yes and no.
okay,
I'll come to the
okay,
point. I'll come to
okay,
the point. Don't open your secrets now. Okay.
okay.
So you were prepared with the label, you were prepared with the lead time, you were prepared with the bottle. Were you prepared with the raw materials for the product that you were going to offer? Yes and no.
Yes,
Did you try making the product and give it to your friends and making them guinea pigs?
yes, yes, I did
Okay.
that.
Now, the last question. When you started getting orders, did you accept each and every order, or you were specific only for the corporate orders?
No, I had to say no for some of the orders in compared to the corporate orders, which were like a high priced bills or the invoices. So I had to focus on the corporate orders for the whole Diwali month because that was what I was aiming at. So I
So
did say no
now
to a few of them.
let me tell you what we did together in this exercise. Whatever
Yeah.
questions I asked you, where you said you were prepared, you were aware, or you had actually planned in advance, that's proactiveness. to execute the orders. While you were getting orders, you did not lose your focus of the corporate orders, and you ensured that you were only aiming at corporate orders and not at the small orders. Does not show or does not tell that you had an attitude or you were neglecting the business, but you were focused towards your goal of corporate orders, which could be more than 300 bottles or 500 bottles. So you actually integrated proactive approach by being prepared to execute the order, and you had a productive mindset while you were accepting and delivering the order. So kudos to you. And
Yes.
friends, this is exactly what we wanted to break it for you. It's not about execution that we're talking about. You all know execution is important. What are the key elements of execution? How do they affect your life? How do they bring stress to your life? How can you integrate that execution in your life to achieve the sense of fulfillment, happiness, and gratitude? That is what the show is all about. Now, you asked me a question about this show. Exactly the same way, the steps,
Yeah.
the proactive approach that we did was the inertia to do the show comes from proactivity. So we were proactive about designing the template that you're seeing, but Bharti was pushing me advance and telling me to be more proactive, to get the frame ready, to do the dry run, to check it, to create the Canva creatives. I'm sure you guys have observed that the consistency that we have in all our banners is making us more productive, is because we are investing more time in the content rather than investing more time in creating creative and thumbnails. Why? Because it's not the thumbnails, it's the content that's going to be there. And the thumbnail that we are creating creates a consistency, which also is all about branding. So now that is what Bharti kept pushing me to be proactive in terms of announcement, in terms of StreamYard, in terms of getting the window, in terms of getting the creatives done. And at the same time, I keep pulling and pushing Bharti to be focused on what we talk about in the show, connecting it to the integrated life. Now, friends, if you apply the same principles of being proactive with a productive mindset and executing your plans, is there any way that you will fail? The answer would be no. But life is not perfect. So I would say, let's say there is a chance that you fail. There will be no room for regret. Why? Because your intentions, your hard work, and everything that you did would have been with full conviction, and you don't have a iota of guilt that you did not do it right. You failed because of something else. You did not fail because you were not prepared. And that brings me to a point that it's not about execution that is important. It's about the approach, the proactive approach, and the productive mindset that makes a difference. Reliance, we all know Mukesh Bhai is a king of execution, and that is why we always see he starts working 4 years, 3 years, 5 years in advance for the project that is going to be executed by the team. And that is the importance of execution. That is the importance of being proactive as a leader. Now, to dwell further, I would pass on the baton to Bharti with a question. How can one be proactive, or why should one be proactive to execute?
Well, why should one be proactive in execution? Is because people execute whatever their ideas are, their planning are, they do it. When you are proactive in your approach, what you're doing is you are acting with anticipation, you are acting with that determination, and you are prepared for all the situations that come in your way. Why it is important? Because you are choosing what is it that you want to focus on rather than reacting to any situation that comes in. Now, as an entrepreneur, I have two choices. One, either I be myself busy and react to the situations and just let it happen, or second, I create the life that I want to be by integrating the elements and also prepare myself with all the resources that I want, prepare myself with what focus that I want to have in the target audience that I want to achieve in my life. So
Lovely.
when I'm proactive, what I'm doing is I'm taking charge of how I want my business to be. I'm taking charge of how my life I want to be, taking charge of my health, my entire personal life, because I will not wait for any bomb to fall on me and then say, oh, this has happened, now let me take charge. So I rather be
Okay.
prepared and have the approach of anticipating what can come next.
Lovely. Bharti, while I was preparing for this show, I love the book is Execution. This book is amazing. Let me read something out of the book because that's something very, very crucial for all of us to understand, which brings in the proactive and productive mindset together. And this book is by Larry and Ramcharan, one of my favorite authors in terms of strategy and business. Let me read it. They say execution is critical. Execution represents a disciplined process or a logical set of connected activities. Connected is marked in bold there. Connected activities that enable organizations to take a strategy and make it work. Without careful, proactive, planned approach, execution fails. Now, that is not something that cannot be explained or that cannot be understood. It's a very, very simple thing that they have shared. And that brings us to a point where we talk about what is execution actually. Execution is when you plan for something and work towards getting it done together is execution. Execution is not only about doing things, it's also about involving yourself in proactively thinking of the risk mitigation when you start executing, the requirements that you need in terms of 4M. The 4M can be man, material, method, and machine. So you have to be proactive in thinking what all would I need. You have to visualize, as you rightly said, that you have to visualize the process. Now that is what you need. But overall, you need to have a focused goal and a strategy, and that's exactly which talks about having a productive mindset. Now I keep talking about productive mindset, and I have also shared what does it mean, so let me share it again. The productive mindset is not about doing everything and achieving everything, but it's about enjoying the process while you're doing it. It is also using all the available resources, including time, money, emotions, to the fullest to achieve your focused goal, which means a productive mindset is not only juggling between efficiency and effectiveness, because that's for robots. We are human beings, we have an element of emotions. We can be happy, we can be sad, we can be up, we can be down, we can be energetic, we can be down some days, we can be happy, we can be sick, we can be everything, all the emotions. We can have fight with someone, we can be happy some days. That triangle of emotions, effectiveness and efficiency together will help you in executing and being proactive to evaluate and being prepared. Having the risk mitigation in place is what execution is all about when it comes to integrated life. How it happens, or why should we do it, or what is execution, is known to everyone, but let me share the 4 E's that are there when it comes to execution. The first E is always about engage. Engage the people, engage the team, engage the stakeholders in your plan. When you have engaged them in your plan, they are all ready, they are prepared, and their mind starts getting tuned to your frequency. Stage 2 comes: empower them. Empower them with the right infrastructure, with the right skills, with the right manpower, if it's to the team or the manager. Empower them with the right resources. Because what happens when you have empowered them, or when you have given them the right empowerment, it brings more engagement. So Forbes magazine conducted an interview with 7,000 employees, and the interview was conducted by John Falkman. They identified that employees were 54% more engaged when they felt empowered. So that's connecting the dot for engagement and empowerment. Now, everything requires encouragement. You have to energize, you have to encourage your team. You can encourage your team by boosting their morale, by keeping them motivated, by giving them the first step, by giving them the right direction at equal stages, by giving them the push and things that they need every time. And the fourth one is evaluate. Unless and until you evaluate at an equal distance or at an equal time frame, how will you celebrate? Remember, we talked about celebration, because celebration brings happiness, and happy employees are 12% more productive and 72% more proactive because they are happy. Now, isn't that amazing? The 4E principle, if you apply to execute, there is no room for failure. And if you have any more E's to add, we would be happy to add them, because this is not our show. It is your show, and we are integrating everything that comes our way to make it even better. What do you say, Bharti? My dear, you're on mute.
Absolutely, Sagar. And giving one statement, what I mentioned here is proactive execution with productive mindset. That is exactly what we are talking about in this show as this episode, because execution, we all know it. Now, how will you take it to the next level? How will you take it to the more advanced level where you are penetrating deep inside to actually understand? If you want productivity, if you really want to have those goals right there, make it a success goals, how are you going to do that? You need to be proactive, having that approach towards everything that you're doing, and having the mindset that I want to only focus on what is productive for me and what is not. And that's where I said that you are choosing what's important to you, filtering out what's important to you. And coming, you spoke about celebration, and it reminded me of the example that we had shared last time. When my daughters, they gave us a surprise anniversary, gift during this
Absolutely.
pandemic time. I sat with my elder daughter to ask her a few questions to understand that how exactly she executed that.
The
How is it that
NLP
she
comes
did?
into NLP comes into play from your NLP mind. Yeah.
So I really wanted to understand this. So I'll tell you why I did that, but I'll tell you what her responses were. So one, she said that what I did was I because we knew that the date is 10 July, we started our planning a month before, and me and my sister, we started observing, noticing what you like, what dad likes it, and we started preparing what are we going to do. We wanted to do it like a big thing, so we started finding out those answers. And after that, when we started preparing what we want to give as a surprise, we thought of doing this as a fine dining with 4 to 5 courses, from starters to the desserts. We went into the detail of every aspect of it. So proactively, they prepared the menu, they looked at the recipes, they did the experiments to find out the recipe falls absolutely uh, good when the day comes. They started getting all the raw material right 2 days, 3 days before, so that they don't fall short of it. And they went ahead with everything that they could do. So on the D day, when and everything was to the T, not just the planning, but it was they were very proactive in also putting up, laying off the table, the entire crockery, everything, even the things that we love as a music, the ambience, everything was created, and it went perfect as it they had envisaged. So when I spoke with her, she said we had to first visualize it, how it will look like. And then we started putting it down to one single idea, because we had so many ideas. So we said, let's have one single idea of what we want to execute, how we want to give it as a gift. And the third we did was we started preparing the list of what we all need to make it a success. And I think that's exactly what they used as a proactive approach to make it a big celebration for us. It is still a big remembrance for us. And of course, they had so many varieties of ideas and want to do this, want to do that, but their focus was only on one thing, and that made it productive all the time that they wanted to do. So when I look at that example, I don't see it only as executing the idea, but I see it as a full-fledged uh, project that they did, right from thinking, right from visualizing how it's going to be, to the completion of the entire project, where we are celebrating our special day. Yes,
Absolutely.
sir.
So that's a brilliant example because that's exactly the show is all about, being integrated in life, personal and business. So while we talk about being productive, proactive within the personal life, it's also important to understand how big companies execute, how big projects are being executed, and what are the small things that help them. So, if you would have noticed, the series or the sequence that we are going through is very simple. We talked about attention to detail first. Now, if you really want to be proactive in executing, you need to have attention to detail about what is required for a project. While you pay a lot of attention to detail, that goes into a thin line between perfection and having attention to detail. And that sometimes people cross over and they always go into a planning stage, and that causes burnout. So that was the second episode that we talked about. To move out of that burnout stage, we said you need to celebrate very often, you need to review very often, and that's where we came to the celebrating. Now, if you see the sequence, the fourth comes, you have to delegate to be more productive. You have to be delegate, you have to delegate the work to get things done faster. And now we are talking about executing, or the point E as execution. So if you see the sequence that we have come through is also a process that we have proactively thought about, proactively worked about, to ensure that you get something which is a sequential flow of everything. Now, while we talk about all this, what does execution relate with an integrated life? That's a very, very, very fine line, or a very, very strong integration that exists. I'll tell you why. Let's say you are doing a project, you're working on a project, but you haven't proactively thought about various elements that are required to do project, but you've just thought about the elements on the surface. When you are in the execution phase, you develop stress because of failures. You start getting irritated. The irritation not only affects your team, but also the irritation comes to your family. The irritation also shows up on your health. And because you're running late on the execution on the D day, or during that month, or during that year, your health takes a toll, resulting you're failing on professional part, you're juggling on the family side, and your health is deteriorating. Now, among all this, there is no room for thinking about productive mindset or a focused goal, because you're only thinking how to mitigate this problem, how to solve this fire. You're always in the firefighting zone. Now, that is the point where your life is completely unintegrated. You are always unhappy. You lose a sense of gratitude. You're always irritated. You're always shouting. You're always frustrated. And even after completing that project on time, there is no sense of fulfillment either in you or in your team. And that is what brings us to talk about execution today in the show, where we say that have a proactive approach, think very, very detailed, have attention to detail, plan it out properly, bring engagement, empower the team, energize the team, engage the team, keep weekly reviews, evaluate the progress, results, an integrated life, because then the project would have been good. You have thought about everything to the minutest detail. What happens? You're enjoying the process. You enjoy the process. Of course, there will be glitches. Of course, there will be hiccups. Of course, there will be surprise elements. But that will be just 1%. 99% is already thought of. And what happens next? The team starts enjoying, your health is happy, you are focusing on your health as well, the family enjoys, and at the end of the project, all you are getting is sense of fulfillment, happiness, gratitude, happy customer, happy management, and the overall process is so energizing that you're willing to take on more and more responsibility. Now, that, my friend, is an integrated life. That, my friend, is not work life balance, but that exactly is integrated life, which needs to be built in your system. And that needs to be always, always be as a part of your life. Now, just to give an example, I'm sure you all have watched The Money Heist. Have you, Bharti?
Yes, twice,
And which is your favorite character?
Professor.
Why?
Because because of the very peculiar quality or the character that was shown in that money heist, he had anticipated all the elements that could come as a hindrance in the plan, and also all the possibilities to come out of any kind of problem. So even if people would have not felt that this could be a problem, he had already anticipated that this could be a problem. And
Now, that is
also,
why we all love him.
yes, yes,
Because he is something which is like a superhero for us who has thought of every single thing. Right,
yes.
Bharti? No, even I loved the professor, no doubt about it. And I know we have not discussed this question neither. I've asked you this question before because I wanted it to be impromptu. But I'm sure 90% of our listeners, if you're listening with us, I'm sure we have 18 people on YouTube and we have 7 people right now on LinkedIn and 5 or 6 people on Facebook. If I'm right, because Facebook is not showing me the correct number, tell us who your favorite character in Money Heist is and why. Now, me and Bharti both love Professor. We have not discussed our answers, but we love Professor is because of his execution skills, his pre-planning, his attention to detail, his ability to safeguard himself from the burnout, and he's prepared for everything. Now, didn't he had glitches? Didn't he had surprises? He had. Kept improvising. He kept improving every time. But at the end, they had the sense of fulfillment, gratitude, and happiness, even though maybe in the fifth series they lost everything, but still people loved them. Why? Because of some special qualities that they showed. So, yes, Bharti, over to you.
What you're saying is absolutely right. When I look at that character, even though the he was improvising on the challenges that were faced, sudden things that would change the entire game that they had, even in that, the professor already had anticipated and kept some resources that okay, if this happens then this. So, of course, the character that was depicted, one had a very very far-sighted vision, had also studied all the resources and the people well, coming from different backgrounds, and also went into attention to detail. And very rightly you mentioned about 4 E's. The question comes is why we must engage our team, and why we should be proactive in engaging them. So it reminds me of a very quick example that when I used to deal with my team of
Mhm.
business development executives and recruiters, the team of 5 to 6 development business development executives. What I used to do was I used to involve them in the meeting when we are deciding on the targets, when we are deciding on the yearly plan of how do you want to take forward this year. Now, this reminds me of one particular meeting that I had when I shared that these would be the goal that we want to do it. These are the targets that we wanted. And for every month, I had broken down into the required target that we will achieve. And I noticed that one of the executive, she was not comfortable, although she didn't share anything, but she would. her physiology changed. And I paid attention to the physiology, to the small gesture that she did, and I interrupted myself and I said, Shweta, you have something to share? Please share. And she said, no, 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 that's all fine. I said, we are only discussing, we are only here to be as a team and take it forward. So let's share what is it that you have it in mind. And immediately she, uh, because she was comfortable getting involved and being a team player, she shared that I think the target that we have is too unrealistic, looking at all the resources we have and the kind of anticipation of the business that we are going to do. So I said, okay, then what's the number that you have it in mind that would be more realistic? Because we want to move from here. We don't want to be at the same level or a little bit at the above. We want to really scale up. So she came up with a number which was close to my number, although a little lesser. And she said, this seems to be realistic. And then we had a 5 minutes of brainstorming with all the executives, and we agreed on that number. Now, what happened after that? Because this came from the team, this came from one of the team member, we all agreed on that. The engagement was so high in that month that it empowered them to take actions, it empowered them to take certain decisions, and it encouraged them to push themselves towards the target that they had decided. And it became a reality. By end of the month, we actually celebrated because we hit that target even before it, like 25 days, and we hit the target. We had 5 days more left for the month, and by the 25th day we had hit the target. And they were so happy that, ma'am, we already did this. Now this came as a sense of fulfillment, as a sense of joy for all of us, because of simple reason. I reflect back on my own behavior. If I had not stopped myself, if I had not interrupted myself and asked her what is it that she's not comfortable with, probably I would have not got the results. Or I may have to, I might have to push them throughout the month and find out what is it happening, be behind them, continuously motivate them to do something or the other, and probably evaluate at the end of the month. But what happened was, because of this proactive approach that I used there and there in the meeting, I was able to engage the entire team to produce the results. So evaluation didn't happen at the end of the month. It happened right every day. They would look at their own work and they'll say, okay, we'll do it the next day. We'll do it the next day. And when they did it, they would say, oh, fantastic, we did it. So I think that summed up the entire 4 E's that you spoke about, that how this proactive approach and completely focusing on what productive goals that we want to focus on helped us to excel in our goals. Yes, Sagar.
Yep, absolutely. You're bang on right that identifying and being observant about your team helps the leader to execute very well. I've seen so many cases while working in the automotive industry. Let me give you an example that to launch a new car, Bharati, it's like an Herculean task. It's like climbing Mount Everest, or even tougher than that, because there are so many components that go in a automotive vehicle. And I remember being into that industry, and I was supplying the artificial leather which goes as a seat cover. The development of the seat cover would start at least a year in advance. Now imagine if just a seat cover starts a year in advance, the engine, the parts, the design, the dashboard, the interiors, and other things, they go a long way. But there's something which I always relate to: focused goals. Execution in an automotive industry is very, very crucial, because one failure and the car and even the brand goes out of the window. For example, VW had to have a huge recall. Toyota, for that matter, had a huge recall. GM could not sustain itself because of their strategies, their designs, or many other things. But at the end, they had to move out from India. Now, all this relates to execution. Now, you see Hyundai. Very, very smart automotive company based out of Korea, but when it came to India, it was a very new variant. But today, it actually sells more than 6 to 6.5 lakh cars compared to Maruti, which is 12 lakh cars, but it's still the second largest player. And now they've got a good strategy of bringing Kia into the country. Now, why am I talking about automotive while we are talking about integrated life and execution? Is because, as I said, the execution for the launch starts 2 years to, maybe 3 years in advance, but the designing starts even before that. But do they start communicating only at the end to all the vendors? The answer is no. They are proactive in engaging and communicating it to their stakeholders very well in advance. There have been cases where sometimes we were developing a black color for them. Now, you would love that. It's a black color. What is there to develop? But there are greenish black, there is bluish black, there is reddish black, there is grayish black. And I mean, the world of black goes on. It's like 50 shades of gray and so on. So we had to develop those colors. And suddenly we get a call from the design team that the market survey has been done. And 1 year ago, black was the color, but now we are moving towards beige, or now we are moving towards gray. And that improvisation happens. Now imagine if they would have waited till the survey completes and everything happens, the project delays. So the color change can happen, the improvisation can happen, but don't stop the planning, and don't stop or don't delay the execution just because you don't have the perfect solution for everything. Start executing, keep planning, keep improvising, and keep paying attention to details. Keep observing the team, your market, your stakeholders, and success is definitely yours. But most of the people think that, no, you know what? I cannot execute. Why? Because I don't have clarity. Now, why do you need 100% clarity when you're starting something? Now, do we know what we are going to do in episode number 18, 19, 20, 21, 22? Sorry, you're on mute.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. We know what we are going to talk about in the episode 18, what we're going to talk about in episode 21 and
Brilliant.
26.
But do we have the content in the hand? Have we done the dry run yet? The answer is no. We just know the topic, we just know the flow, we just know the outline. And that's where we started executing. And while we are executing, as you rightly said, we know our focused approach. We have been proactive in identifying what we need. We have already have a productive mindset of what we want to deliver as a message, but creation of that content is done as a structure, as a template. But then we go along, and every episode we keep improvising, we keep adding, we keep developing the content. And that is the beauty of execution. Now imagine if you would have waited to complete all 26 episodes, the content, the script, and everything, it would have taken 3 months, and we would have been delayed by 3 months in the project. And execution in today's world is also the first mover's advantage. If you launch a car today, or if you launch a car 6 months later, it makes a big difference in orders. I don't know if you've gone through the launch of Mahindra, the Big Daddy, the N Scorpio. They've done it so well. They've done it so well that the first 10 hours, and they were booked for next 6 to 8 months of their production capacity, or even more. I may be wrong now on my numbers, but imagine, just in 10 hours they've booked themselves for production for next 6 to 8 months. Now that is the key of planning and being proactive. Now, have they executed all the orders? The answer is no, but they've been proactive of getting their team, their stakeholders ready to ramp up, ready to do everything. They've got the plan in their place, and now while they're executing, they will focus on productive mindset, which means, to summarize it again, proactiveness gives you inertia to execute, and productive mindset gives you the speed and quality to execute. Now, isn't that an amazing integrated life approach? Because when you do that, you end up with sense of fulfillment, happiness, and gratitude, as always, because there's no room for stress. And even if there are failures, or even if there are glitches, or even if there is a thunderstorm, you're not prepared for everything. But You're aware of everything that this can come, and you always have a risk mitigation plan, don't you? So, are you going to execute with a proactive approach and the productive mindset? If your answer is yes, share it in the chat, or you can also click on the link below, watch the episode again, and download your check sheet to execute even better. What say, Bharti?
Absolutely. So, next time when you think about execution or when you talk about executing any thing in your life, personal or professional, think proactive execution with productive mindset, because it's not just execution. You may get, you may not get results. So, that's not the desired outcome that you're looking for. But if you're really looking for your desired results, for your outcomes that you want, if you're in the game of creating your integrated life, then only remember it's a proactive execution with productive mindset. And that's where the entire game changes for you. Otherwise, the examples that Sagar gave, the stories that he gave, even the stories that I have shared, why do you think we were able to do this? Why do you think companies are able to do it? It's only because they have that approach in their entire ways of how they are doing it. They are very proactive, and it brings it ahead, much ahead in time. And it that approach is only because they have the mindset that yes, I want to be productive and I want to see my goals to be fulfilled, and that's why they do it. So as an entrepreneur, success doesn't come for people who wait. It comes when you start creating. It comes when you have that approach and the mindset to execute what your vision is, what your goal is. And that's where the entire thing changes for you. So, if you ask me, how would you want to do it? And I remember, Sagar, when I was leading the PSAI talk show, Professional Speakers Association of India. When I was leading that talk show, initially when I was given the project, I was shit scared of going live on doing it absolutely online, because I learned how to do it. It was a learning curve for me, but I was really, really nervous to go live. And how will I present myself online? So it took a while for me to prepare myself to do it. But that was not only it. It was not only about me, how will I do it? It was also preparation about how I want the talk show to be. What is the vision that I have about this talk show? Why we are doing this? The purpose and the reason of doing that was so big that it kept me going every Friday, 9 p.m., for so many months. And it didn't end at the Friday 9 p.m., but the entire thing started the next day, Saturday. And again, from Saturday to Thursday, lining up 3 to 4 meetings with the speaker, with the host, and looking at the tech check. So even though I knew that I'm going live every Friday, I used to do the tech check every week, because I didn't want the glitch to happen on the Friday, on the day when the live is happening.
Yeah.
So the testing, the questions, everything I used to do it every week with the speaker and the host. It is only because the kind of approach that I had it in mind, that no, I want to be absolutely prepared when I'm doing this. If there is any contingency, I should have this also ready. So I would have my co-host also ready, that if the host internet goes down, I have the co-host ready, so she or he will jump into the talk show and will be a part of the talk show, will continue. So in that kind of preparation, I had done it. And also when I had to go live, it was also about how do I want to engage this entire team, so that the whole objective was to be productive and let that talk show be successful every week. So I think even in that entire project, these two things were absolutely handy with me. It was not a vanilla execution that people do it. It was about the flavored proactive execution with productive mindset. That's what made it happen every week to make the talk show successful. Otherwise, this would have not happened.
Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So, well, to summarize it for the day,
Oh,
remember
yes.
the four E's to execute: engage, empower, encourage, and evaluate. All these four elements be proactive, and all these four elements have the productive mindset, and you have your integrated life in your execution. And then about the link, I would let Bharti to share.
So, to go through the episodes, if you have missed any of the episode before, you can simply go to www.theintegratedlife.co.in. On the homepage, you will see at the drop down, you have all the episodes. And for today's episode, for the checklist, go to episode 5 and put up your details, and you can easily download the PDF with the checklist. This PDF will help you to execute the plans, the goals that you have. It will also help you to find out how you can practice, apply these 4 E's. And all the rest of the episodes, if you have missed any of the episode, just go to that episode and you can also download the PDF of that particular episode. So you can simply go to www.theintegratedlife.co.in and download the PDF for you. And don't forget to send us, write us to us with your questions, with your queries. If you want to fill the form, if you want to put up the checklist and send it to us, you can simply write to us at saga@sagaramlani.com and bharti@bhartinaik.com. So we are right here for you to help you to make your life as the integrated life that we all want to be. Let's not waste our time. Let's not loosen up the time that we have here. Let's integrate it and enjoy the life that we want, because we want the life to be have the sense of fulfillment, have the sense of happiness and the gratitude in our life. Yes, Sagar.
Great said. And that brings us to the end of one more amazing episode of the Integrated Life Show. See you again next Tuesday. Till that, enjoy your integrated life. Thank you very much for joining us. Goodbye, good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're joining us from.
See you soon. See you next Tuesday, 9 p.m., and with yet another episode of The Integrated Life. And we sign off, Bharti and Sagar. And we'll be waiting for your responses to understand how do you want us to help you. Thank you so much. Good night.